They enrolled in a university that didn't have classes, no professors, no exams, and no campus. But it had one thing that mattered more than anything else: the paperwork. For thousands of students, that was enough, because with those documents, they could legally stay in the United States. They could get jobs, avoid deportation, and send money back home. Until one day, the university vanished, emails bounced, phones stopped ringing, and the students were told they had 30 days to leave the country or get arrested. Except, here's the twist: the university was never real, not even a little. It was a trap, a fully fledged fake university created by the U.S. government, and over 600 people walked straight into it. This is the story of the University of Farmington, a $1 billion immigration scam designed, built, and operated by the Department of Homeland Security. Let's begin. In the quiet suburbs of Michigan, there sat an ordinary-looking office building. No classrooms, no student life, just one glass door. And behind it, one of the most bizarre setups in American immigration history. It called itself the University of Farmington. It had a clean, professional website, photos of students laughing on a sunny campus, academic departments, a mission statement, and most importantly, government accreditation. On paper, Farmington was legitimate. It was listed on the official DHS Student and Exchange Visitor Program website, SEVP, the same list used by real schools like Harvard and Stanford. To the average person, Farmington looked just as real. But that illusion was intentional, because every pixel, every brochure, every document was carefully crafted by undercover agents. The entire university was a sting operation, set up not by criminals, but by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Its goal? To expose visa fraud. Specifically, a type of scam where foreign students enroll in sham universities just to maintain legal residency. But there's a problem. Farmington didn't just catch scammers, it also caught ordinary students. People who thought the school was real, people who paid thousands of dollars in tuition, and now had criminal records. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind back to the early 2000s and 10s, a time when student visas were booming. The U.S. issued hundreds of thousands of F1 visas each year. They were a golden ticket for education, opportunity, and often a better life. But demand created a black market. Fake universities popped up across the country, offering enrollment letters, I-20 forms, and visa maintenance, with zero actual education. One of the most infamous was Tri-Valley University in California. It was shut down in 2011 after an ICE raid revealed it was little more than a visa mill. Over 1,500 students were affected, and that gave federal agents an idea. What if, instead of shutting these fake schools down, they built one themselves? So in 2015 they did. The Department of Homeland Security quietly approved a new school, the University of Farmington. On the surface, it offered programs in business, engineering, and health sciences. It claimed to follow a dynamic curriculum. It even charged real tuition up to $12,000 a year. But what it didn't have was classes, no lectures, no syllabi, no professors. When students asked, they were told the courses were structured to accommodate a flexible curriculum model and that their presence on campus wasn't required. In other words, just sign up, pay, and you're good. Your visa remains active. To the agents behind the plan, this was a honeypot, a test to see who would bite, and many did. In just under 4 years, over 600 foreign students enrolled at Farmington, mostly from India. Many were already in the U.S., studying at other institutions, until those schools lost accreditation or shut down. They were desperate to stay. Farmington offered a lifeline. It looked legitimate, responded quickly, and promised compliance with immigration rules. But behind the scenes, every email, phone call, and payment was monitored. The admissions office was staffed by federal agents. The goal wasn't education, it was evidence. They even had a list. 8 individuals who helped recruit students to Farmington. Agents called them facilitators. They called themselves visa consultants. In some cases, they received commissions for every student they brought in. To ICE, that made them co-conspirators in visa fraud. And in 2019, they made their move: dawn raids, arrests, detention centers, deportation orders. The sting was over, but the fallout was just beginning. Backlash came quickly. Civil rights groups condemned the operation. Lawyers said the government had entrapped its own victims. And India's Ministry of External Affairs intervened, calling for fair treatment of the students. Many of those caught said they believed Farmington was real. They had email records, receipts, and even acceptance letters to prove it. They'd been misled, but ICE disagreed. They argued that the lack of classes should have been obvious, that anyone willing to pay thousands to stay enrolled without attending school had to know something was wrong. So was this a brilliant sting operation or a government-run scam? The answer depends on who you ask. But Farmington wasn't the first fake university to cause global outrage, nor the most profitable. That title might belong to a different kind of operation, a company headquartered in Karachi, Pakistan. With just a few computers, it sold more than 200,000 fake degrees and made hundreds of millions of dollars doing it. It didn't use spies, it didn't have agents, it didn't need to, because its victims came willingly and paid in full. Karachi, Pakistan, an ordinary building in the middle of a bustling city. From the outside, it looked like any other IT company. Nothing flashy, no signs of a scam, but inside, Axact was running one of the most lucrative fake education businesses in history. Its product, degrees, thousands of them, bachelor's, master's, PhDs, all fake, all for sale, and people were buying. The operation was simple but genius. Axact created hundreds of fake universities, each with its own website, logo, faculty list, and course catalog. They sounded credible. Names like Rochville University, Belford, and Grant Town. Some were designed to look like traditional U.S. schools. Others mimicked prestigious institutions in the UK or Middle East. They even had customer service hotlines, staffed by advisors with American accents, who told callers exactly what they wanted to hear. Yes, your life experience qualifies you for a degree. Yes, we're accredited by international bodies. Yes, you can graduate by next month. All lies, but very convincing ones. The price? It depended on what you wanted. A simple bachelor's degree might cost $500. A package deal, degree, transcript, verification letter could run into the thousands. They even offered rush delivery. Buy today, get your diploma by Friday, framed and sealed, ready to hang on your wall. For job seekers, it was tempting. For career climbers, it was a shortcut. And for some, it was a lifeline. Because when the system is rigged against you, a fake credential can feel like the only way out. Axact's business exploded. They didn't advertise. They didn't need to. They had SEO down to a science. If you Googled online degree in business or fast track masters, one of their fake universities would show up near the top, with glossy landing pages and glowing testimonials. It looked more professional than many real schools, and it worked. They reportedly raked in over $50 million a year. Clients from 197 countries, doctors, engineers, teachers, all with credentials from places that didn't exist, and no one stopped them for years. Back in Pakistan, the company presented a different image. Axact called itself a tech powerhouse. They claimed to be developing software, running media operations, launching a TV channel. The founder, Shoaib Ahmed Shaikh, styled himself as a bold entrepreneur, Photos of him with foreign dignitaries lined the office walls. Staff wore suits. The company hosted lavish parties. It looked like the Pakistani version of Silicon Valley, but behind the scenes, it was something else entirely. A factory of fraud. The whole house of cards finally collapsed in 2015, when a New York Times investigation blew the lid off the entire scheme. The headline was explosive. Fake diplomas, real cash, Pakistani company, Axact reaps millions. The article exposed everything. The fake universities, the call centers, the forged accreditation, the massive earnings. And most damning of all, the lives that had been changed or ruined. People had used Axact degrees to get jobs in healthcare. Some had been hired as professors. Others were denied work, deported, or blacklisted after being caught. In one case, a Saudi official reportedly bought an Axact PhD and used it to get a government promotion. In another, a man posed as a doctor using a forged diploma, and patients suffered for it. It was no longer just a scam, it was a threat. The Pakistani authorities raided Axact's offices. They arrested Shoaib Shaikh and his top executives, seized servers, confiscated stacks of blank diplomas. But Shaikh wasn't done. He called the accusations baseless, said the company was under attack by foreign media, blamed everything on rogue employees, and somehow, despite the overwhelming evidence, he walked free. He was arrested, rearrested, released again. The legal process dragged on for years, and all the while, whispers spread that Axact had simply gone underground, changed names, moved operations offshore, because the demand hadn't gone away. And here's the most unsettling part. Axact wasn't the only one. Across the world, fake education has become big business. There are entire diploma mills operating out of Eastern Europe, the Middle East, Southeast Asia. Some sell degrees, some sell transcripts, some even offer fake reference checks and professors willing to verify your academic record. And many of their clients aren't random scammers. They're people working in government, in education, in healthcare, holding positions of trust built on lies. So why does this keep happening? How does a fake university thrive in an era of background checks and LinkedIn profiles? It's not just about greed, it's about the illusion of legitimacy, because the easiest way to deceive someone is to look exactly like the truth. And when desperation meets bureaucracy, the lines blur, people stop asking questions, and the system becomes complicit. That's what makes Farmington so disturbing, because unlike Axact, it wasn't created by a private company. It wasn't built for profit. It was built by the very people meant to uphold the rules, a government agency with resources, power, and the ability to define what's legal and what isn't. And that raises a difficult question. When the enforcer becomes the deceiver, what does justice really look like? Working part-time jobs, paying tuition, checking their visa status online, everything looked normal. The university was still listed on the official DHS website. Emails were being answered. Receipts were sent. There were no warning signs, no red flags, until January 2019. It started with a knock. Federal agents showed up at homes and workplaces. They had warrants, they had names, and they had one question. Did you attend the University of Farmington? If the answer was yes, you were detained. Across the country, more than 250 students were arrested in a matter of days. Some were picked up in the middle of class. Others were found through job records or phone tracking. Their crime, visa fraud. ICE claimed they had knowingly enrolled in a fake university to stay in the country, but the students didn't see it that way. They said they'd followed all the rules, that Farmington had been listed as a real school, that no one had ever told them it was a trap, because no one had to. It was designed to look real. News spread fast. Indian media exploded with outrage. Families begged for answers. The Indian government stepped in, demanding consular access and fair treatment. They weren't just concerned about arrests. They were furious about deception. Because to many, this wasn't law enforcement, it was entrapment. Here's what makes this whole story even stranger. The U.S. government didn't just allow Farmington to exist, it promoted it. The school had an official SEVP certification. This wasn't a loophole or a one-off error, it was part of the plan. And that raises a serious ethical question. Can the government create a fake institution, certify it as real, let people pay and enroll, and then punish them for believing it? It sounds absurd, but that's exactly what happened. And the consequences were real. Some students were deported, others were barred from re-entry to the U.S. for 5 or 10 years. Many lost thousands of dollars. Some had their bank accounts frozen, others couldn't find legal representation in time. All of them carried the same scarlet letter, FRAUD. Even those who maintained they had no idea it was fake. Even those who had proof, emails, documents, enrollment letters, none of it mattered, because in the eyes of the government, they were complicit. But let's pause for a second. Was everyone innocent? Not exactly. Federal prosecutors identified 8 people they called recruiters. These were individuals, mostly of South Asian origin, who helped bring students to Farmington. In return, they allegedly received cash kickbacks for every enrollment. Some helped students transfer from other schools that had shut down. Others used word of mouth to quietly spread the message. Farmington doesn't require attendance. To ICE, these recruiters were the real targets. They were charged with conspiracy to commit visa fraud and harboring aliens. One of them allegedly made over $250,000 in commissions. But here's the thing, even these recruiters claimed they thought the school was legit. They said they were helping students stay compliant, that Farmington was on the DHS list, just like any other university, that if the government didn't want people to enroll, they should have taken it down. Instead, the site stayed up, and the trap stayed open. This wasn't the first time something like this happened. Back in 2013, the government had done something similar. ICE created a fake university called the University of Northern New Jersey. It also had a real-looking website. It also had SEVP approval, and it also resulted in dozens of arrests. But there was one big difference. In that case, the students were not charged. Only the facilitators were targeted. The government admitted the students were never told it was fake. But with Farmington, the rules changed. Now, everyone was fair game. So what made Farmington different? Why go after the students this time? One theory, deterrence. The U.S. government wanted to send a message that it would no longer tolerate visa mills, that enrolling in a school with no classes wouldn't be brushed off as a mistake. They wanted to scare people, make an example out of Farmington, and they did. But the cost was trust. Immigration lawyers were furious. Advocacy groups called the operation cruel. Even former ICE agents criticized the strategy. One retired official told the Washington Post, "We shouldn't be in the business of tricking people into violating the law." And yet, that's exactly what happened. Meanwhile, Farmington's website quietly disappeared. The logo vanished. The contact numbers stopped working. No apology, no refunds, just silence. Students were left to pick up the pieces. Some returned to India in shame. Others stayed, fighting lengthy legal battles with no guarantee of victory. To this day, many of them carry the stigma of being labeled a fraud for trusting their government. And if this sounds outrageous, here's a darker thought. This was the legal scam. The one backed by the government, the one that made headlines. But for every Farmington, there are a dozen more scams happening right now, privately, quietly, without anyone watching. Thanks for watching. Smash the like button to get free candy delivered to your door. Try it. Subscribe for your complimentary Blue Bear hug. See you in the next video.